104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. I haven't talked to this guy in way too long. I've been on vacation, so I'm very excited. Buster Olney with us right now. Buster, before we get into how neurotic I am as a Yankees fan, how amazing was the home run derby?
It was really cool. And I loved the fact that all the players were into it with the same mindset. You know, at the press conference before the event, Giancarlo Stanton, who was the only guy who among the eight who had any experience, really set a tone and talked about it. He said, you know, there's all kinds of pressure on me because I'm the defending champion and people are saying you got to win. He said, I'm just going out there to have fun. And he did, and you could see the players, you know, rooting on each other, you know, having a good time. Aaron Judge, between rounds, pointing at, you know, the other guys and sharing a laugh and having a grin. And, you know, Cody Bellinger was the first up in the semifinal against Aaron Judge, and I really hadn't talked to Cody Bellinger before that day, but you got a sense of how circumspect he is. He's got a good sense of humor. And so I was telling the producer, I'm like, after Bellinger's round, you ought to get him to come over to the desk. And they were kind of hemming and hawing because if he had a bad round, what would he be like? And I encouraged him, like, I'm telling you, this guy will be really great. And you know, I thought it was cool. He sits down, and Carl Ravitch, who did a great job hosting the event, asks him about Aaron Judge. Hey, you know, what do you think your chances are of surviving Judge? And he goes, minus 12%. You know, and that was sort of the tone. He said it with a big laugh, and that was sort of the tone everybody had, and everybody was in awe of Aaron Judge and, you know, how far he was hitting the ball. The next day, before the regular All-Star game, I was talking with Joey Votto. I think he probably understands hitting better than anybody in baseball. And he was just going on and on and on about how amazing Aaron Judge is, how incredible he was during that event. And, you know, Joey said, I don't think anybody really understands how difficult it is to do what he's doing. And, of course, Aaron Judge, just the way he handled himself, he's so self-deprecating, a real humility. Which is why, you know, the day after the home run derby, Rob Manfred was talking about Aaron Judge maybe being someone who could be the face of baseball.
It's amazing to think about all that. So many times we've seen at the All-Star break in the Derby, a Yankee gets booed, and that barely happened because of how likable Aaron Judge is. This isn't just for the cameras. You saw it there. This is how he is every day, Aaron Judge.
Yeah, and he was booed, by the way. When they introduced him before the All-Star game, he was booed because you had Marlin fans, and then they had seen their guy, Giancarlo Stanton, and Justin Bour lose in the home run derby to Judge. So for the record, he was booed. But no, and you know, he got a grin out of it. And it's amazing to me. I've heard media members saying that he's very Jeter-like in how he answers questions, and I totally disagree. Okay, you know, as someone who covered Derek for 4 years and tried to pry interesting answers out of Derek was intentionally boring. But right below that surface of Derek in the way he answers, you could tell Derek was, and I say this not as a criticism at all, but there was a cockiness there and you know, a great competitive arrogance, and you could feel it. With Aaron, it's something different. There is an absolutely bottom line humility there, and we saw it right after the Derby was done. Like I'm standing there with Joe Torre. I'm getting ready to do the trophy presentation. And I'm looking around like, okay, where's Aaron? We got the trophy, we got Joe Torre, we got me trying to remember what to say, and Aaron's not there. And I look behind me, and there's Aaron 15 feet away, and he's telling the Major League Baseball officials, I'm not doing this till the BP pitcher can join me. I'm not doing it. He was in the clubhouse, and Aaron's holding him off. I'm not doing it, and no one's going to make him do it, by the way, at 6'7", 282. And he waits until the BP pitcher came out and joined him, and that's when he finally said, okay, I'm ready to go. That is Aaron Judge, who is as genuine a person as I've met in baseball.
Buster Olney with us right now on 104.5 The Team. Buster, I've been saying, you know, while everybody's air quote fixing baseball, I don't really think pace of play is the problem. I just think we don't get to know these kids and fall in love with them the way we did during that Derby. I mean, between Justin Bour eating a donut and then hitting more home runs than before, and like I just thought Major League Baseball really handled the All-Star break really, really well this year.
Yeah, I'm one of those people talking about fixing baseball, so I won't take it personally. Yeah, and I do think there's some things that they could do with it. I do think that you know, that was part of the great thing about the event, and it's not only Major League Baseball, because people always say, what can Major League Baseball do to promote its players better? it's also about the union, and the union has to have buy-in as well. And we have to remember that that they don't always jump on board in terms of wanting to do stuff.
Buster Olney with us. Great All-Star break, but then coming back from it, I'm noticing, Buster, that as the series that the Yankees need to be well in, they haven't listed their pitchers until about an hour ago. Pineda needs to have Tommy John. Is that the final thing? Do I have to start worrying finally?
I think you're good. But if 1/5 year rotation, having Tommy John surgery isn't enough, but you are definitely doomsdayer. Okay.
What's that? And Bird now might need surgery, and this one and that one, and I'm just I'm getting a little nervous.
Well, and you should be in terms of how the team is performing. I mean, it's obviously been hemorrhaging a lot in the standings. Now they play 4 games against the Red Sox over the next 3 days. And I was looking at this. From here moving forward, because they've had rainouts, the Yankees have only played 86 games to this point. There are teams in baseball that have played as many as 92. They've played the fewest games of all teams in baseball. They have to play 55 games in the next 58 days. And they just found out, as you mentioned, that Pineda's out. Greg Bird may not turn out to be an option at first base after having that great spring training. But here are a couple of things I think are worth remembering. They did dig deeply into the Jose Quintana trade conversations. I don't know exactly who the White Sox asked for. My belief is that it probably was Clint Frazier. And I know that the Yankees, like the Pirates, like the Astros, they all liked Jose Quintana. They obviously loved his contract. He's a controllable starter, but they didn't view him as being a number 1 type starting pitcher for the type, for a Clint Frazier and others perhaps type package. The Cubs jumped at it, and the Yankees didn't. And I think in the end they're going to be proven right for having done that. I don't know if they're going to make the postseason, but let's face it, they've arrived into contention probably a year sooner than what we expect this season. And so I think that a proportional response to this problem with Pineda is the right way to go. And they're not in replacing Pineda. They're not replacing a guy who's throwing out shutouts every 5 days. They're basically replacing a number 3-4 starter. And if you look at how the market is beginning to fall, with a little over 2 weeks before the trade deadline, there are going to be opportunities to acquire pitchers who are number 4, number 5 type starters. Not great, but guys who can do okay. And I think they'll have some chances to do that. And I think they'll also have some chances to add someone at first base, like a Yonder Alonso of the Oakland Athletics, at less cost than what it would have cost them to get Quintana. I thought it was the right move. After talking with folks with other teams, other than the Yankees, other than the Cubs, based on their evaluations of the deal that was made.
Buster Olney with us, 104.5 The Team. So Buster, as Yankee fans who were looking at Quintana, and we've on this show, you and I and Goz have talked about Sonny Gray and Garrett Cole. Are we talking about a guy at that level still, potentially becoming a Yankee, or do you think they pull back on some of that?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they have conversations with Oakland about Sonny Gray, who right now, in this game of musical chairs, is probably the second best guy. The first best guy is Garrett Cole, but I suspect the price on Garrett Cole is huge. And I wonder if the Yankees would reach the same conclusion about Garrett Cole that they did about Jose Quintana, that it was just simply too much. I wouldn't expect them to make a move for him. I wouldn't be surprised if they get a little bit deeper into the conversations on Sonny Gray. But their evaluations, it comes down to what they think what's going on. His numbers this year are not great. He didn't pitch a lot last year. I talked to Sonny recently. He said his arm feels good. He's got the best fastball velocity of his career. He feels like he has a good breaking ball. There's been some question about him being able to maintain his stuff through second time through the order. Again, I think if you're the Yankees, it may turn out to be the best price. If you don't like what Oakland's asking for Sonny Gray, might turn out to be for one of these number 4, number 5 type starters. And I'm just riffing here. Jaime Garcia, the Atlanta Braves, Derek Holland of the White Sox. Really fringy guys who are not going to be that expensive and wouldn't cut into the rebuilding they've done the 2 years.
I know Levack doesn't want to think about this, but there's a possibility the Yankees lose 3 of 4 against the Red Sox, and we're talking about the Yankees being more than a handful of games out of first place. Doesn't that affect who they go after? We're talking about a team who's maybe 6, 7 out. They're just trading for a wild card 1-game spot. That's got to have a huge factor in it.
Well, it certainly plays into it to some degree. I do think that going into the weekend that the Yankees have a lot at stake because it feels like that they're going to need to make progress pretty quickly, or else it may be that they're just going to be left only to pursue a wild card spot. I mean, the Red Sox, their pitching has come together. They are healthier. They got rid of the Pablo Sandoval issue today and releasing him, and they'll move forward with a third base question at some point. But if the Yankees can, take 2 out of 4 against the Red Sox, if they can hang in there, then you might have a situation where the Yankees are going to be augmented by whatever moves they make. And I do think they'll do some things. I think they'll do something at first base. I think they'll do something with the rotation to get better and hang in there. I just don't think they're going to dive in head first on trying to make some kind of moves to try to prop up a team that's having a lot of issues in the rotation. A big move.
Buster, there's no way they become sellers. They don't fall that far, right?
I don't buy that. And I've seen people have written that, and they say, hey, and then I'm not going to say, it'll never happen, because if they were to lose, say like 10 games out of the break in a row, then at that point they may pivot and see, what could be out there for a guy like Dylan Betances. But, I mean, let's face it, they probably wouldn't have a lot to offer anyway that would interest other teams at this point.
Buster, your name has become so synonymous with baseball that when I woke up, was it yesterday morning, and you were breaking down the Knicks possibly trading Carmelo Anthony, I was shocked. I forget that you know a lot about sports, not just baseball. You did a great job on Mike and Mike.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I've always loved filling in on that show, and you get a chance to break down the Carmelo Anthony trade, talk a little football, talk a little MMA, Conor McGregor, so that it was great. I appreciate that.
That and Russo riding you a little bit. It brought back bad memories from you when you were an old guest on the Mike and the Mad Dog show.
Well, it was funny because Chris, I mentioned that to him. I hung up the phone, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again because I think he got the wrong impression of what I was trying to say. Because what happened was I was a young beat reporter covering the Padres, and whatever I was talking about with them, they weren't buying it. And they were kind of like, really? And Chris doing his thing. And so I hung up the phone, and I didn't feel beaten up, but it was sort of like a self-assessment, like, wow, that was like seeing a 98-mile-per-hour fastball when I was seeing 74 in San Diego. And that's what I meant when I said to him, I had to do a self-assessment when I was done because I'm like, okay, you got to step up your game a little bit.
I love it. Buster, I assume that you will be in Fenway this weekend.
Well, I will be in Fenway. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. Thanks. And if you might have to pitch for the Yankees, so just stretch a little bit.
Well, you got you're more qualified than I am. They might be calling you.
Buster, thanks for making time as always, man.
See you guys.